back to Pretty Walks and Ugly Talks. We're back today with Carrie. We're going to get to know her a little bit more, which I've learned throughout working together and chit-chatting here and there and going to your poetry party, which was so... But first, I want to touch on the fact that you made everyone acknowledge your lipstick this morning when you got here.
I knew that was going to come back around to haunt me. So I mean, you know this. I do not like wearing lipstick. And part of that is my hair is so long and I'm in and out of my car.
That's
it's
fair.
part of my day job all day. So I'm typically a chapstick gal. But for filming purposes, I want to have lips. So you have to paint them on.
Yes.
Even though I don't know much about lipstick, my daughter does, who's 13 years old. And so she recommended this. This is what I'm wearing, actually. I was just putting more on. This Kylie Jenner. The Kylie stuff. I think it's called Kylie. And it feels like silk.
Oh, that's nice. So it's light.
Yes, but I ate pineapple when I first got here, and it didn't really go anywhere. It's fantastic. So
it doesn't get on your teeth then?
No, I don't think so, but I'm going to keep...
I know.
It's
a bad habit.
Licking my teeth,
I know.
sure.
I do the same thing. That's why it's a love-hate relationship. With makeup in general, I feel like I don't love to wear makeup. I told you this before, and I actually yelled at you about this. Your SPF,
the SPF
on your face.
Yes.
But I always feel like if I have a face of makeup, that like any kind of touching or, just like your shirt or your hand, it feels greasy and it feels like you're going to mess it up. So I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But filming is the point, I've learned.
So your daily is like what you're wearing now?
No, gosh,
okay.
no.
Okay.
I mean, it has been because I've been practicing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just SPF and blush and mascara. That's it. And a lip if I'm feeling fancy.
Right. Yeah, I am mascara. I have a brow wax because I have like no brows. So I painted them on for filming, but no brows. So I brush them straight up and then I
like that
seal
look.
them in place.
I like the straight up look. A lot of people don't. I think it's fun. I had thicker eyebrows as a little girl and then everyone made fun of me. And I'll never forget it, gym class. Someone was like, you have bushy eyebrows.
Oh, no.
And now I'm pissed because
they're so in.
I have exactly what everyone's getting tattooed on their face.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, normally it's the brow wax mascara, and we were talking about this before, I use a vegan mascara by Tarte because my eyes are so sensitive.
Yes.
And I don't wear blush normally, and then I don't wear lipstick, so it's chapstick, mascara, and brow gel, and I'm out the door. Yeah.
That's the other thing I love. I've had to add like 10 minutes to my morning, which I'm already always 10 minutes late, so to add is not helping.
You have twin boys.
I do. I do. They'll be 5. They keep telling me, you keep telling us that we're 5 and we're not 5 yet. And I'm like, well, you're closer to 5 than 4 and 4.5. And we're not doing 372 months old, so we're not 5. You're 5. Act like it.
That's funny because my daughter, when they're older, it's like cooler to be older.
Right.
And so, she was 13 for a very long time.
Yeah, right. The day after she turned 12, right?
You're 12, girl. Stop it.
I think because they've been to so many 5-year-old birthday parties lately that they're like, but we're not 5 yet. I'm like, okay, that's fair. They just challenge everything that I say, so it doesn't really matter. Everything I say is wrong. They're boys, so they're going to disagree with me, right?
Well, Ava was the same way.
That's true. Okay.
And Ava's a girl, obviously. Ava's the same way. Or she was the same way. Now she knows I'm the boss.
Okay. That's
it. We were able to establish that without much issue. So I have to tell you this story.
Please.
So she was maybe 7 years old and talking back to her teachers.
Which is a huge no. You want to talk back to me? We'll dial that in, but we don't disrespect.
Yeah. And she'd done it twice. She was warned, if you do it a third time, there will be repercussions. And she did it a third time. Before she even made it home that day, me and my ex-husband removed her door from the door frame, removed her door, and removed everything from her room. Literally. The dresser, everything that was on the wall, and we put her mattress on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, if you're going to misbehave, we're going to do the bare minimum. As parents, you'll have a place to sleep, and then each day as you improve your behavior, we'll let you pick one thing. So we had a spare room in this scenario.
Yeah.
We had moved all her stuff in the spare room.
I mean,
some people are going to think this is crazy.
No,
but
I've heard of this before.
It worked because each day she was good all day and got to come home and pick one thing. Like, it took a while for her to build things back up. But
that takes a lot of patience on your end.
Yeah.
It
worked though, I'm telling you.
Get it back together. I can't handle this disaster.
But from that day on, she never spoke out of turn at school. And, we don't spank. I was spanked, and I know some parents who still utilize some form of spanking. But that just wasn't something I wanted to do.
Right.
And this worked in our situation.
And I'm glad to hear that. We're kind of in a back and forth, just a lack of consistency.
Yeah.
But we're getting back. Last night Wilder was like, yes, boss. Yes, boss.
Ooh.
And I was like, that's right, bro.
Yeah.
That is right.
So this is an interesting way to transition actually into my story. And I know we didn't plan things to go this way, but my mom
we're just doing what we want to do.
We're doing it. My mom was 16 when she was forced to get married. And it kind of blows my mind to think about that because my daughter's 13. And so that's literally a couple years.
Yeah.
What happened was she had a boyfriend and she was on the phone talking to her boyfriend.
Okay.
They had started having sex.
They had started having
sex. And her mother picked up the phone and was eavesdropping on the phone. Now, this is, of course, my mom's older than I am, of course. So it was a different time.
Yes.
But my grandma is on the phone listening and overheard them talking about their escapades.
Oh.
And she was forced to marry him. Isn't that crazy?
Can you imagine?
I can't. But honestly,
I would have been so screwed.
That started this domino effect that was my childhood.
Okay. Well, yeah, it didn't start from a very solid foundation.
No. She didn't finish high school. She got married and they had a trailer and it was horrible.
Oh. Well, let's go into that so everyone can kind of understand just a little bit and what you're comfortable with sharing, because I know there's a lot.
Right.
And this is about you and what you want to share, and not all of you don't have to share any more than what you want to, and
I appreciate that.
You'll be sharing that in other ways and forms.
Yes.
Someday.
Of course. So we mentioned in the first podcast, I'm a writer, so I've got a poetry collection that it's with an editor right now. I've not, confirmed this is the one I'm going with yet, but we're in the process of seeing if we want to work together. So that's really exciting.
That's very exciting.
So my mom was forced to get married to someone she barely knew at age 16. Because of that, she could not finish high school, and that relationship fizzled out very quickly. My mom started abusing drugs and alcohol as I think a coping mechanism for what she was dealing with.
Well, you have to put all that stress and anxiety somewhere.
Right.
So I feel like that's typically what happens.
Yeah. And she worked in a tampon factory for a time. She worked on a tobacco farm.
That's not funny, but just to think that those were actually, no one thinks
they're still a thing.
You don't know where they come from, you just need them, right?
You just need them. Amen. Yeah. You want them when you want them. You don't care where they're made.
Right, exactly.
But so she because she didn't have any skills, she didn't finish school, she was doing that kind of manufacturing work. She worked, as I mentioned, on a tobacco farm. Things were not easy. I came along, my mom was 20 when I was born, and then I had a sister that was born 3 years later. My childhood is filled with homelessness. And so we moved around. I mean, we lived in my mom's car. It was a station wagon that was like this burgundy color. It was like a turd on wheels. But I was a kid. I thought it was cool. You know, we had blankets and pillows in the back, and we
an adventure.
Back. I thought it was an adventure. It wasn't until I got older that I realized
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trauma that occurred was more of when she would meet someone that wanted to help us, whether it was a man or a waitress that she worked with, and come and live with us. You don't need to live in your car. Come and live with us. And so we were living with strangers. My mom was working 3 jobs, so we were alone with strangers.
And you're young.
And we're young. And so that led to a lot of really bad circumstances. The worst of which was actually a shooting. So I was witness to a shooting right after my 13th birthday. And I'm in the car. So like we're sitting out in the yard, and the stranger we were living with burst out of his house yelling and screaming. And my mom's boyfriend at the time was like, get in the car. And so I jump in the passenger seat of the car, and he goes to turn the ignition, and the guy's like running towards us, but doesn't come to the car. He goes to the shed and pulls out this massive sledgehammer.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, holy cow. Just stalled. Car stalled.
Of course.
Tried it again. About this time, he's like, sledgehammer in the air, and then whoa, comes down into the hood of the car, the engine of the car, still not starting. And the boyfriend then opens the glove box, and there's a gun, and I'm like, oh. And then at that moment, my window was down. The stranger's in the car, like he dove into my window. And so I'm pressed up against the seat, like I can't see anything. And then I hear a boom. And he shot the guy right in front, like
on your
literally
lap?
On my lap. Yeah.
That's not funny, but like
it's
I'm
really
trying to
intense.
understand. Yes.
And then it was so close, in fact, that my ear, I couldn't hear anything.
Well, and you would think that he would be like, there's a little girl right there. Like what if that would have been? It could have been you.
Right.
That's terrifying.
I write a poem about that. It's a story, actually.
Okay.
And in the poem, I talk about blood filling my shorts.
Oh my gosh.
But when I look back, I don't know if it was actually blood or if I peed my pants.
I mean, either way.
Either way, it's horrible. But so that, oddly enough, actually leads into my marriage.
Okay.
Pause. Awkward pause. I had a lot of traumatic experiences. That was definitely one of the top. The shooting.
Yeah.
Men were not a source of comfort for me growing up.
Okay.
But in a lot of circumstances, police officers would come and sort of save the day,
right,
if you will. And so I married the first cop I met as an adult.
The first cop.
First cop I met as an first cop I dated.
And was that like on your radar of what you wanted?
No, and in fact, when I met him, I didn't know he was a cop.
Okay.
But once I knew,
it kind of sealed the deal for you.
I really think it did. And, my marriage ended in divorce. After 14 years, we were together for 14 years, and then it started the separation.
Yeah.
So a total of 17 years of marriage. And I really think we both made some huge mistakes. And he's a great dad. But looking back, I think I ignored a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
Because he was a cop. I just don't think I just did not realize we were incompatible until years later.
Well, it's not like you were set up with a good example of what a marriage and stable household or foundation looks like. I mean, no offense to your mom. She did what she had to do.
surviving.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that where you're at now, you've really come out on top and you've dug deep. It's a lot of work to turn that around.
You have to do the work.
But you have to.
And that was never a part of my childhood. My mom was present, obviously, during all of this stuff that happened. I didn't see a therapist. There was this vow of silence that...
Which I think is one of the deadliest things that you can do to your children, to your family, to anyone in your circle. It's got to come out. It's got to be talked about. It's not going away.
Right.
It doesn't matter what kind of perfect rug you put over it. It's still there.
Yeah. So I have PTSD.
Yeah.
It's something that, I was diagnosed with during my marriage. It kind of came out. And that's interesting. You said it's gonna come out. It is. It truly is. And in my situation, it was when I was safe, when my body and my mind realized, okay, I'm safe. And then my mind was like, it's time to process all the shit.
I'm glad you feel safe. It's my turn to speak.
Right. Yeah. And that sort of started, honestly, my writing journey.
Okay. Which that makes sense.
Right. And then the divorce was like the fuel of the fire, because once that process started, I just realized I had so much more healing to do. And I thought, because I started therapy, I thought I had put in some work, and I only scratched the surface. Mm-hmm. So the details of my life and my divorce and the trauma, it's in the poetry collection.
I've read some of it, and it's in there.
Right.
It's in there.
And then I have an autobiography I'm working on fictionalizing, because if I publish it as an autobiography, I'm going to get sued by potentially family and other peripheral people. So I'm working on fictionalizing that.
Which, isn't that kind of messed up? Like, it's your story to tell. I mean, I understand it legally, but
honestly,
it's your story.
I think it makes it more fun, because I can make it as
that's true.
Crazy. I can make it crazier.
You can make it crazier
than it already is.
Okay. I can understand that.
Which part is true?
That's fair.
And oddly enough, 2 weeks ago, my annulment came through. So I was married in a Catholic church. And I have some religious writings about just the interesting duplicity of the Catholic Church and marriage and how they view it, and divorce. And so there's a lot of raw stuff there. But they did come back and say, yeah, your childhood was crazy enough that you never should have been married. And that's what the Catholics, they want to prove. It's not relevant what happened after the marriage. It's, your mindset prior to, and in their mind, you never really were truly married.
Okay.
Yeah.
My stepdad is Catholic, so I'm sure he could fill me in on the blank. But I don't understand any of it. Mm-hmm. But I know it's very intense. The whole entire process.
Oh, yeah.
The pre-marriage, the marriage, the post, getting back into the church, all of that. It's a process.
It is a process. And so I am in this space now where I'm really focused on my writing. This will be my first poetry collection, the first thing I've had published. That's with an editor, as I mentioned. We're going to talk more about that hopefully at some point.
We are.
Once I have more to share.
Yeah.
And then I have another poetry collection, which I'm already in manuscript development with, and that'll be like book 2.
Okay.
And then
can you just see? I'm like so excited. I have been privileged to hear and read some, and it's just, I actually keep the manuscript from the party in my purse, because if there's ever a down moment, I'm like, I just want to read more. And it's just, it's nice. It's a nice way to get to know you, or get to know another perspective.
Yes.
And also there's some stuff that hits for me that I wasn't expecting, but it does. And it's just nice to, it's kind of like my little, it's just comfortable to have it with me. I like it. I don't know if that's weird or not, but
no,
it is what it is.
It's weird at all. And in fact, this idea of, me writing something, I don't always write from my own perspective. You
Right.
know that.
I do.
Sometimes I'll take on the point of view of a complete stranger. Honestly, I mean, we were just before we
Yes.
started filming talking about this new character that I'm developing, and I have no relation to this person, but I saw, a YouTube video where she's telling her story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to write something from her point of view. So I do that often. And it's interesting how some people will read it and they'll think I wrote that from my point of view, and I'm like, oh no.
Well, that's what I said when you read that. I was like, please tell me that's about something or someone else, because otherwise, like, let's go cry somewhere.
Or, that's a trip.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and then other topics that are maybe a little simpler are more relatable,
Right.
I think. And it is art. I mean, it's words, but it's art, and so you can look at it and read it, and it means something totally different for you than what maybe my line of thinking was when I wrote it.
Which we've done a few times, and I really love when we do that, because I think it's cool to know different perspectives and like what you genuinely meant by it. But when I give you my feedback, you're like, oh wait, I can see that part too. Mm-hmm. So I like when we do that. Do you want to read something?
I should.
Okay, good.
Let's do it. All right. This one is called Mirage. Trembling. Relentless tears staining my best coat. Cold. Mud on my suede boots. Wondering. When I cry real tears over a miraged life, does it make it real? Decide. The tears are real. My feelings are real. But it doesn't make anything true. Forgiveness. To myself for my unpreparedness when I am defined as such. Defining a new self, alone, but with the greatest hope and desire for a true partner. Real. I am real. My feelings are real. I was truly there. Goodbye, dissipating mirage. And hello to something painstakingly real, I hope.
Pretty cool. Love it. It's also when you read that you can feel the passion and the vulnerability behind all of it. And I think that's what hits me the most, is it's just listening to you read it. I can feel what you're feeling or thinking as you wrote it, whether it's about you or not about you. That's my favorite part, actually.
Maya Angelou is probably one of my favorite spoken poetry poets. I love like Robert Frost, Edgar Allan Poe, but man, when she would read her poetry, looking at something on a page is one thing, but then when the crafter reads it with the cadence and the pause and the emphasis of their meaning, I really think it becomes magic.
I couldn't agree more. That's half the time I get lost. I don't even know what you're saying, but I can, like, again, feeling the compassion in it, that takes me somewhere else. So half the time I block out. I'm like, I don't even know what she's saying, but I can feel
Except
it.
when I read the sexy stuff.
Well, then you're like, I feel those too. We're not reading those. I'm not prepared for that today.
You'll have to check out the poetry collection for those.
And you'll want to be safe at home somewhere by yourself, or not by yourself, whatever your vibe
whichever
is.
you prefer.
Okay, I know that we covered a lot of your stuff, and I want to leave it at that. I
think it's perfect.
People to read your stuff, understand, and just kind of learn more about you.
And I hope that when it's published, that you'll let me come back.
Are you kidding? You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, good.
I think that's it for today. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm
We're
just
good?
so glad to be here and really excited to be part of your creation of this podcast.
I couldn't have started with anyone better, quite honestly. It's a lot of patience, a lot of just learning things, and you've been so sweet and kind to just give me your time and your perspective and your points and all that stuff. So I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of Pretty Walks and Ugly Talks. We'll see you next time.